Hello folks, welcome back. Middle89 here. I just wanted to carry on a little bit on my last video when I talked about how, Scorpio is otherwise the Ascension sign and the Occult linked to self-initiation and some of the things I otherwise missed there. I also mentioned, if you can recollect, me talking about, two massive activations that I had when delving in entheogen experiences like the mushrooms and stuff, and a few rituals I did that hugely shifted my consciousness. One of which was the event in the New Forest that I mentioned in this video, down here, Shroom Trip, New Forest, Astral Rape, and the things I encountered energetically wise, and what happened after that fact, talking about grid wars and how the energetic grids here on Earth kind of affect what we do in these certain places based on where our consciousness is at, where our allegiance lies, whether we're with like the kind of darkness or the light, how this actually impacts certain areas of the map due to the morphogenetic fields that we carry in our crystalline bodies, and that transference of energy into the grids of where we're located in the Earth, because there's always this constant, back and forth in communications and transfers of energy based on, where we are. So what was interesting, obviously, I mentioned when I had my experience in the New Forest, I encountered, heavy fucking satanic energies, which made me having to flee that site pretty rapidly and go back home to manage the next 7 hours of me reclaiming my consciousness. But long story short, a week after that, or a few weeks after that, I was at work, and on Radio 6, quite interesting, number 6 here, I was listening to it all day long, like I normally do at work, and just lunchtime, one segment of the news just slipped in this news feed of sheep being killed in possible satanic ritual attack in the New Forest. I was thinking, oh fucking hell, that's quite recent to when I was there. I said, I automatically thought this is connected to why I was there. So anyway, I looked up on the computer and obviously had a look at the articles talking about this and some of the images which you can see here, which obviously this is, satanic sheep killer strikes again. You was found stabbed to death with inscribed pitchfork and cross made out of hay in Hampshire's New Forest just weeks after animal was found with its entrails removed. And so you can see here, these are some of the things that were done, obviously by some of these sleeper agents and Satanists who are kind of there in the New Forest, anchoring in the satanic energies. And so they would have been like kind of ordered to go and do these things in order to help restore the energies there in the grid after me being there. Because when I was there, it was like as the mushrooms were kicking in, I took like there's only 4 grams of Liberty caps that I picked locally, but within like 45 minutes I started to like dial in, and I started seeing all the hieroglyphs and the alien inscriptions on the trees, and I was like, oh, this ain't a good place to be. And it just got worse and worse. I was like, fuck, I need to get out of here quick. And I won't go into much detail. I go about it in the other video that you can watch, but it was very testing. It was like having invisible needles injected into my brain, and they were poisoning me and trying to split the timeline and possibly drag me into like a derailed timeline, so they could derail me, so make me turn, like basically lose my consciousness, or even more my consciousness, and become like a fucking lemon. Lucky that didn't happen. But yeah, it's interesting anyway. So, these guys obviously get urged and ordered to go and invert this, and go out and do these things, these rituals, in order to anchor in the satanic energies. After obviously I went in and maybe like I made a little bit of a dent. So you can see here, this was like laid out in the middle of the road, and you got obviously a few of the sheep were stabbed, a few of the cattle as well were kind of slashed, and they sprayed the inverted pentagram and the cross on there as well. And there's a few other kind of news articles. And you can see obviously one of the churches there as well was sprayed with 666, which was kind of rubbed off, which is what you see after this fact. So yeah, kind of a bit of a scare to the people there. But it's interesting, the same time I heard this on the news, that same afternoon, I had a mate of a mate message me saying that his brother's gonna like literally jump off a building, like he's losing his shit. He's been going through like real tough times. And I was just like, wow, that afternoon, that day, again, those kind of negative satanic frequencies came in, and I was like hit with that, and I was like, shit, this is pretty deep, like what's going on, that I've kind of chucked myself into. And so that was like, okay, no more mushroom trips after that. I do everything organically. I'm at that point now, I'm so sensitive, so I don't really need it. And it was just like, obviously I did that Amanita muscaria mushroom trip, but that was like really small dose, and that's different. I knew that was kind of different energies involved with that, more heart chakra related. And I was in my house, but that was a pleasant experience. But I knew after that point, all right, I need to take like a hiatus. for a little bit and collect myself and do more research and just grow and anchor in more consciousness so I can, you know, understand these things better. What was interesting, going back to, obviously this all happened when the sun was in Scorpio, so around November time. Obviously we have also, you know, Halloween in Scorpio, and if you look at the constellations here that I mentioned in the previous video, we've obviously got, yeah, Scorpius is here, so this is the ecliptic, so you've got Leo, Virgo, Libra, so you can imagine the sun comes down and will cross this section of the sky going through Sagittarius and Capricornus. But you've got Scorpius, obviously above is Ophiuchus, which, you know, puts his foot on the head of the scorpion, or the heart of the scorpion, which is Antares. And you got obviously here Hercules, which is the hero. And you got, you know, Hercules in the 12 labours, otherwise depicting the sun and the 12 zodiac signs. You got Aquila, which is the eagle, and Cygnus, the swan. And Lyra, here's Lyra, which is the cradle of Lyra. So this is why, you know, they always say the veil's at its thinnest when, you know, around Halloween in Scorpio. Well, it's because obviously not only is it lining up with the galactic plane, but like I said, it's lining up to all these stargates which are accessing the higher realms of consciousness through the Lyra Stargate system and all the surrounding star constellations. And it made a lot of sense because I spoke to people in the past and they're telling me that the gate to God is Cygnus. And I was thinking, what the hell does that mean? How does he know that? And obviously he's talking about the stargates which are related to Lyra, because Cygnus is right next to it. And obviously you've got Draco up here as well. So there's a whole story here based on, you know, what's happened in these other densities and these kind of areas of space-time which are bestowing us with energies and tell a story in the night sky, which is otherwise kind of, you know, brought down here as above so below on our journey, if we wish to kind of, you know, channel into that and connect our consciousness to these kind of myths and these fables and this history that we're all a part of. So, you know, I talked about this before. This is why, you know, Scorpio, there's so much energy that we can pluck out the waters, the depths of the waters, you know, because it's fixed water there, that can otherwise activate a lot of what has been lost from us, incarnated into this grid, so we can salvage more of our soul, which is locked away in the shadows of the deep oceans. Okay, so we can bring kind of more of the light down in to see what's otherwise hidden beneath the surface. So, you know, Scorpio will burn the worst of themselves to rise from the ashes and become a greater, wiser, stronger being. So you see here the Scorpio, Eagle and Phoenix, as I talked about in the previous video. So what's interesting as well, obviously this is like the ecliptic, as above so below. You've got the man here depicting, you know, the chakras lined up to where the zodiac signs are. If you come round to Scorpio, as the sun obviously descends past the September equinox, we start seeing the leaves go from green, yellow, orange and red. Well, the orange obviously lines up perfectly with the sacral plexus, which is our sacral chakra, linked to, you know, sex and I desire, basically here in Scorpio. Exactly around the time we have Halloween, where we've got the orange pumpkins, and obviously where we have the orange leaves falling. So it kind of follows as above so below, the kind of energetic imprint which is given to us down here, relating to our chakras and these energy centers of consciousness that we come into and experience. Okay, and so we obviously got here the rise of the phoenix. You got the many faces of Scorpio, the spider, spoiled and mean spirit, scorpion, jealous and temperamental. This is why a lot of Scorpions, so if your sun sign is Scorpion, they can be very vicious characters, backstabbers and stuff like this if they haven't, you know, done their transmutation and their work. But this is something anyone, regardless of your sun sign, like my sun sign is Pisces, tropically, and Aquarius sidereally, you can work through these signs in order to achieve desired results. And like I said, Scorpio is probably the most mystical, magical sign that's otherwise linked to ether. You know, so all the elements are otherwise listed here, but this is why they've taken Ophiuchus out. So it should be a 13 sign zodiac, because the 13 is linked to the gods, and the 13 is otherwise the Stargate. 13 takes you to the density 5 levels of where the gods are, the rishis, collective consciousness. And so this is where you can start tapping into like your god power, and that's what Ophiuchus represents, because he stood there holding the serpent, which is taming the sexual energies relating to the lower nature of Scorpio, which is in our sacral chakra, which is to do with the reproduction organs. Yeah, and so it all ties in. And so this is why, you know, it's important to transmute that sexual energy and focus it into enlightenment, rather than, you know, this lowly, debased, desire-based, carnal kind of afflictions that we have down here in the material world. So you've got the lizard, humble, observer, revenge, the serpent, protective, creative, venomous, the wolf as well. So there's a lot of wolf symbology. A lot of people, when they go for these activations like I've done, will encounter like either wolves in your dream or wolves synchronized in reality of people wearing tops and all these symbolisms that come into your life when you start awakening your kind of shamanic spiritual powers and senses. And the wolf is obviously being an ancient life, an ancient symbol to do with spiritual work, the lone wolf and stuff like this. And of course the eagle, the hero persona, and then you've got the phoenix there. Okay, and if we go back to the constellations, this is why you can see here lupus is otherwise the wolf. Okay, and it's very close to Scorpius, which is otherwise a deacon, a Libra, which is why a lot of Librans, they have like a wolf characteristic. And I can spot quite a few who are Libra, and I can see like there's kind of some lupus or like lichen type wolf-like features in them, which is quite interesting to see. So it's all interesting stuff. And obviously you can see here, this is obviously right where the gonads are for men and women, Antares, which Antares, interestingly in astrology, again, is otherwise linked to assassinations and violent deaths. And this is what my granddad died of, fire, in a car fire. It's burnt alive, basically. It's quite horrific. So there's the kind of energies that are coming out from that center or part of the Milky Way, our universe. And this is why you have to kind of slay the dragon or Lucifer, the devil, which is like, again, your shadow aspect, in order to reach the higher planes of consciousness, which is where obviously Ophiuchus is, which is the serpent bearer, and obviously Hercules, which is the strong man. So it's all about transmuting. And obviously down here you've got Lupus, Lyra, kind of, they're all tying in together. See Lyra, Draco, the dragon, Hercules, Ophiuchus, and Scorpio with Antares, and obviously up here Lupus, the wolf with Libra. So all these energies otherwise, have very much their basis down here in the material realm, and the journey that one soul would experience when trying to look for activation of spiritual enlightenment and coming back into their higher selves, or activating their higher selves for that matter. So you got here, you could pause this and read this in your own time. It's quite good, it's just the different stages involved. Like I said, when you unlock these experiences, you'll have all these symbolisms and synchronicities with like these different animals and these symbols relating to these constellations, which is where all this high consciousness is emanating from. Because you've got to think the human race is only 550 million years. We are babies compared to the kind of timeline of this matrix we're in, which is 950 billion years old. If you look at the works of Ashiana Dean and what she's saying here, the 15-dimensional time matrix that was set up was 950 billion years ago. Human race was only created 550 million years ago. That's like a blink of an eye compared to the rest of the 950 billion years. And so all these forms, like the eagles, the phoenixes, the scorpions, probably existed way before us humans were created. Obviously, granted, there were other humanoids because we were kind of created from a pool of all the other meta-terrestrial beings, the best of the best, as it were, and all kind of these densities 3 up to 5, I believe. I think they used from all kinds of different races across the cosmos. So we're kind of like a blend of the best of all the races who evolved up to that point. So it's quite interesting. But it's all part of the process of unlocking our higher selves, like I said before. And just going back to obviously how Scorpio is linked to the devil, which is governing eye desire and the sexual faculties like lust. Obviously you can transmute lust into love, and that's like a higher octave of otherwise depicted by the scorpion kind of sex, or the eagle type sex, which is like the lower, the higher aspect of these experiences. But you can see here obviously the devil's tail, and there's a reason why that is the way it is, because when the sun is in Scorpio, like I said before, seasonally we get not only the pumpkins depicting Halloween, which is where the veil's at its thinnest, where a lot of these possibly it could be linked with the underworlds as well, but the kind of spiritual forces of evil might be residing around these kind of constellations. But there's definitely obviously a force there that delivers this thing, as I said before. But you also got, around that time of year, the apple falls off the trees in October, November time. So this is where obviously Satan gives the apple to Eve, and if you cut an apple in half, it's otherwise linked to the pentagram. And what's the pentagram otherwise linked with? Well, Lucifer and the devil and magic, basically. It doesn't mean it's evil, it's just obviously an inverted pentagram is iconical of the inversion of magic from light magic to dark magic. So everything's got a polarity down here. That's what we're experiencing, duality. So it's all very interesting, it all ties in. Sacral plexus, as above so below. And it's all about obviously you know, mastering that sexual desire and that sexual energy in order to slay the lower consciousness of the scorpion and the snake and transmute up into, you know, being like an eagle or phoenix or wolf type character in that sense, and those energies associated with that. Yeah, so it's all very interesting. It all ties in, you know, how the trees drop their seed, how it's related to our sexual organs, and how obviously 10 months later, if you were to conceive, then it'll be around June 21st, which is the summer solstice, when the sun is in his mansion, you know, and he's ascending, so to speak. So all these things tie in, and it's deeply woven in the occult, which, you know, if you do work with these energies around that time of year, it's going to massively enhance your spiritual development. So yeah, I just found that really interesting. Obviously, now, you know, if you do grid work and set your intent, not only in your body, because your body obviously is literally a walking crystal, the most advanced probably ever that you'll find, most powerful when unlocked properly, because your DNA, you know, otherwise anchors and transmits and receives consciousness. All right, so if you're doing the work, the spiritual work properly, then you're going to act, you're going to be able to hold more information, and with more information comes more energy, and more energy has more influence on your external environment, and so that will be able to help shift the grids and anchor in that Christic light during these times, which is obviously the mission that I think a lot of us are a part of. Like I said before, I've seen the Rainbow Bridge connect to my chest. I won't be the only one, but there'll be X amount of beings here at this time. It's still coming in and leaving and going, you know, as we kind of die and incarnate into these systems to serve a purpose of anchoring energy, you know, in order to prop up whatever's going on here, in order to, you know, keep things flowing systematically during the solar ascension cycle, so we don't get what happened last, you know, 25,000 years ago in ancient Atlantis. All right, so it all ties in. It's all very interesting. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where you have these like wacky experiences like I did, I was kind of like playing the fool in this sense, that I was kind of like just chucking myself in the deep end and thought, you know what, I've got nothing to lose, everything to gain. And I kind of had that warrior mentality and spirit in me, which I was probably destined due to my evolution as a soul in this universe, and obviously my soul and oversoul made all these decisions for me and kind of led me into all these experiences for me to have, but there was definitely a certain element of me playing the fool's journey, which is the hero's journey, in order to, you know, kind of face these challenges and face the fears, I guess, of, you know, what is out there, you know, what is there. I want to unlock, I want to seek, I want to find, and trust me, you know, seek and ye shall find. It's so very true. And then all that is just you bridging more of your consciousness awareness down here into this reality, like I said before, merging more of your subconscious into your conscious, so the waters become shallow and there's no more deep waters where things are hidden, and you can see everything and adopt the eagle-like higher mind of being able to see, have spiritual vision, 20/20 vision, and see everything that is going on in your life, both materially and spiritually, because they're both connected. And what's interesting here, obviously you, it's obviously phonetically very similar to you, Y-O-U, as in me and you, and this is what they refer to all of us when we call each other you there, and all this in the legal world, but otherwise also depicts a sheep. And this is part of the legal tricks and traps and the language that they use to put, you know, cast spells on us, because we are all babbling. This is the language of the angels, basically, and probably the fallen angels for that matter, which keeps our subconscious mind actually subdued. If you're not aware of these things, with the poison prefixes and the phonics used in the words in order to convolute the meaning of what it is we're trying to say. It's coloured, it's all colourful, it's the colouring of the law, they call it, and the colouring of our language. And this is how they're able to like pull rabbits out of a hat in the courtrooms. It's all about word magic. It literally is all down to a game of words. Basically, you have to be a wordsmith, and this is something I teach, I've learned and mastered thanks to David Wynn Miller and stuff. But it was just interesting seeing that. But like I said, these experiences, it's all about how you look at it. And you can't, you know, something like this to someone who is unaware of, you know, the greater picture of the universe and the battle between light and dark and what's been going on here, it can be very, you know, fearful, it can be very scary, but only to those souls who obviously aren't involved. I wouldn't have come into this kind of stuff if I wasn't ready and prepared to face the reality of, you know, what's going on here, because we are in the middle of a war, don't get me wrong. It's been going on for so long. But when you activate yourself so much to a point where you literally carry so much crystal light energy, this stuff doesn't faze you, and you can walk what angels fear to walk and tread in that sense with the things you've seen. And it's all a process of not desensitizing, but getting used to the reality that we're in. Because there's two ways you can face any problems in life. One, you can accept defeat, cower and cry and play the victim, or you can face up to the challenge and, you know, stand firm on your feet, hold ground and say, right, yeah, I'm ready, let's fix this mess. So it's as simple as that. And I, you know, highly recommend taking up the latter and doing the spiritual work. And the best thing anyone can do at the moment is literally activate more of their higher selves, repair their DNA, clean up their diet, and all these things contribute. Do the meditations, ask, seek, you know, and put yourself in an environment where you're able to do these things in order to anchor more your higher self and your consciousness here in this reality, which will help benefit not only yourself and your own life, but those around you and the whole of the earth during this time, because we're all intricately connected. All right, so let me know if you had any experiences like this. This is pretty unique, profound. It happened in 2019, so right before the 2020 kind of fucking coronavirus was released. So it was like the timing of all these things is just insane with what's been going on. But I guess, like I said before, this is all part of the journey of awakening and walking that hero's journey, playing the fool, as it were. Which is why, you know, the Joker card in the deck is the most powerful. Why? Because the Joker can take on any other card or suite in the deck. So he has the power to transmute and be any one of them when the time comes, which is adaptability. And that's there's power in diversification and adaptability. And that's the 13th. And they've got us fearing all these things. And this is their inversion. You know, so don't fear a lot of the stuff. Because otherwise just been inverted for us to stay away from what we need to do in order to unlock, you know, the gifts that are waiting for every single one of us. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Peace out. I'll see you in the next video.